A couple weeks ago on the channel, I told you all that Genesis had set out to sell up to $1.4 billion worth of crypto. Now, the majority of that being, of course, the GBTC or your Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, and then, of course, Ethereum itself in their Ethereum Trust. Now, what you can see here is that they actually got approval to sell this $1.6 billion in shares. So we're going to talk about what this means, how this breaks down, what I think it means for the market as a whole, and then I'll talk at the end about my thoughts on Bitcoin right now and what I'm doing, so stay tuned for that. Now, what we can see here is that bankrupt crypto lender Genesis Global on Wednesday received permission from a U.S. court to sell about $1.6 billion in Grayscale cryptocurrency trust shares as a part of its effort to repay creditors. So this does mean that it was confirmed. U.S. bankruptcy judge Sean Lane approved Genesis' request at a court hearing in White Plains, New York, allowing the company to monetize its shares of Grayscale Bitcoin Trust, Grayscale Ethereum Trust, and Grayscale Ethereum Classic Trust. Now, the breakdown on that, of course, being $1.38 billion of GBTC, $207 million worth of Ethereum, and a tiny amount of Ethereum Classic that won't really go as noticed whatsoever. Now, it told the judge that it needs to sell those shares to repay customers and avoid paying almost $2 million in monthly fees on its trust agreements, which does make sense. Okay, now Lane overruled an objection from, of course, DCG, which was the Genesis parent group, which had warned that the sale might be premature if Genesis fails to win court approval of its overall bankruptcy plan in general. But the judge said, no, we're going to rock and roll with this, because the likelihood is the longer they continue to hold these, the longer they have to pay these fees, the longest they don't pay their customers, the worse it is for everyone. So they just approved to sell it and to get it over with. Now, in my opinion, yes, this does sound really bad, right? It could sound really bad from the title. It could sound really bad from news articles. I don't really think it's that bad. If we were in 2022 in like May or June, this would be pretty rough. This would be pretty rough on the market. But I do believe that at the point in which we are at now, that although this isn't the most bullish news ever, the fact that we are seeing the ETFs kind of just absorb a shit ton of the supply, over 3% of Bitcoin's total supply, and it's continuing to grow every single day. The fact that we're seeing that supply crunch happen on Bitcoin right now, I think that this is totally fine, because they have the demand to absorb this injection of supply. Because think about your basic economics, okay? If you add more supply, but you have an equal amount of demand or a solid amount of demand, it's not really going to impact prices by any means, right? Because that demand is just going to absorb the supply. Right now, we're actually seeing a time in which we will soon see more demand than there is supply. And so considering that they're going to have to sell this $1.4, $1.5 billion worth of crypto at some given point, I would say right now, considering the fact that we can see something like Bitcoin, for example, sitting up around $52,000, realistically, this isn't really all that big of a deal. You all know that I've said quite consistently over the last week especially, Bitcoin just cleared its 786 key Fibonacci level, which does open the door up to its all-time high. This was the last major point of resistance. This little 618 to 786 zone that we just broke out of was the last major point of resistance, the hardest level of resistance, before Bitcoin could even hit its all-time high. And we cleared through that thing easy, breezy, beautiful cover girl, right? And that's because of the ETFs, right? That's because of all of the supply getting eaten up by these ETFs and institutional investors. And so because of that, even if the market does pull back a little bit, even if the market does cool down a little bit, I don't really think it's all that big of a deal, because again, the demand is there to absorb that supply. And like I told you last video, every cycle, at the beginning of the bullish cycle, those who did not survive the bearish cycle are going to sell their crypto, sell their companies, inject more supply onto the market. That's just what's going to happen, because they need to get out. There's no way something like Celsius can realistically come back, right? There's no way something like Genesis can come back. And so they have to sell that crypto, and it's better to do it now than later on. It's better to do it now whenever there is that bullish momentum, there is that bullish excitement, there is that demand to absorb that supply, and it's not really going to stifle anything whatsoever. And even if it does cause a little bitty pullback, no one's really going to care, because we are so excited about what the future holds for crypto. And so at the end of the day, yes, although this does look maybe bad from a headline perspective, not really all that bad at all, but I did want you to be aware that there is going to be this injection of liquidity into the market, or this injection of supply onto the market. And so that could cause some ripples, that could cause a little bit of a pullback, but I don't think it's going to be severe, major, or really worth being worried about to any degree whatsoever, especially considering Bitcoin's a $1 trillion market cap at this point. In terms of what I personally am doing, I'm not really doing too much right now. I did pick some Bitcoin up not too long ago. You guys know my entire investment strategy, and I've talked about this in the last few videos, and I will continue to do it. My entire investment strategy for the most part is based off of HG Algo, the indicator that my company designed, and we haven't gotten any dollar cost average end signals for a while, because the price has been doing well. I did pick some Bitcoin up right here, and I did pick some Bitcoin up right here, and in this little cluster back here, here. And so all of those buys are doing extremely well. I don't invest myself anymore whatsoever. I just simply wait for HG algo to flash. It sends me an alert. Once that alert goes off, I just buy it. And that is the way that I just personally invest now, because I trust it, because we designed it. And so because of that, of course, not really doing all that much, just kind of letting this play out. This probably would be a decent time to take profits if you wanted to. I think Bitcoin's going to hit 100K one day, so I'm just going to kind of let it ride, wait for these DCA algo signals to flash again, and then I'll just kind of go about that. If you do want to see all the cryptos that I personally am buying, you can check out my Patreon down below. If you do want to access HG algo yourself, you also can check out the links down below. We are running a code for February, which you can get at about 20% off. So with that in mind, that is about it for today's update. Of course, I wanted to just let you know what was happening in the broad market. If you guys did enjoy, you can always let me know by smashing that like button and subscribing to the channel if you are new, and I will see you all next time. Peace out, everybody.